Heather, for being on my channel.
Thank you for asking me.
How are you today?
I'm great. I've already gotten one run in today, but not as many miles as I had planned, so I'm going to run again later.
Oh my God, so you're one of those runners who actually do twice?
Yes.
You do that often? Or?
Sometimes on my long run days, and a lot of it is just because, with two kids in the house and my husband home, it's like I can't spend hours out there running. I have to kind of take a break, come feed everybody lunch, make sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to do, the whole family thing.
So obviously I will include your handles, your YouTube channel, your Instagram, everything, and your Twitter account, because I know you're pretty active on Twitter. I've seen you over there quite a bit.
Right.
But why don't you introduce yourself as a runner?
Okay, well, my name is Heather Stringfellow, but online I go by the name Running Geek Girl. And let's see, I've got a Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, a YouTube channel. Those all came along at different points during my running career. So it's been a ride.
So I know that you and I connected. I'm trying to think. I think I discovered you as Running Geek Girl through Dan Runs. I think you made a comment in one of his videos, and then I went to check you out.
Right.
So your channel is fantastic. I've told you this before, because you
thank you.
Very unique ideas. So, for example, your series that you're doing with the ABCs of running. How did you come up with that idea?
A lot of what I do on my channel, it's I tend to be an introvert, and so I didn't really have like a group here that I ran with. There's not a whole lot of group running that's done here where I live, and I didn't really have anybody in person that I could ask questions. And I would constantly Google things all the time, like hydration strategies, fueling strategies, what is a tempo run? And so I think of all these things that I didn't know 5 or 6 years ago, and I'm like, what if I just had all this information in one place for someone who's in the same boat that I was in? So I started putting together a channel based off of what did I need to know 5 years ago.
Right. So is that when you started running 5 years ago?
Right. It happened not too long after my first kid was born, and I had postpartum depression. I was not in great health, and the whole world was just kind of a lot to deal with at that point.
Having been a human being, like bringing a human being into this world is, it's like a shock.
It is.
I only have one, but yeah, it's
just
not
this
easy.
huge
It's
change.
just a lot.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
And I knew that there was a 5K that they would run here in town for a charity that I'm really familiar with, and one that means a lot to me. It's for the Dr. Robert Elliott Foundation, and they do a lot of work with people struggling with depression and preventing suicide, and that's what they call it, is the Stride to Prevent Suicide 5K. And I thought, that would be so cool to run a 5K. I don't even know how long a 5K is, but that would be really cool. And at the same time, my sister pointed me to this virtual 5K, and they were trying to find people to run it virtually through all 50 states. And she said, there's nobody from Arkansas yet. Why don't you sign up? So I was like, yeah, but I've always talked about running a 5K. I don't think I could actually do it. And she was like, give it a shot. She says, it's virtual. You could just crawl on your hands and knees for, 3.1 miles, and it's fine. It counts. So I thought, okay, well, that's when I started delving into 5K training, because, that's the way I have to research everything before I do it. And so I started looking for strategies of how to train for a 5K, because like I've mentioned in one of my videos, when I first started, there just weren't a whole lot of couch to 5K programs. And so I had to kind of figure it out on my own, but it was a long process, kind of discouraging at times, but I tend to be pretty tenacious. I wasn't going to give up on it, and managed to run my first 5K on a treadmill very, very slowly, but I made it through. And just the change in my my mental state, my physical well-being, and everything through that whole training process was it was amazing. And I started thinking, well, what else can I do? So then I started training for a 10K and ran a 10K here in town. Again, incredibly slow. Had a lot of stomach problems along the way and everything. And then started thinking, okay, what if I tried for a half marathon? So found a half marathon that was about an hour or so away, and didn't really research the course before, which I probably should have.
I've done that too. Because you realize there's a lot of hills or
Yes,
a lot of turns or something like that. Yeah.
Especially in Arkansas, there's hills everywhere. And not only that, it was raining that day, and I had never gone on any rain runs or anything. And so it was a pretty miserable 13 miles, but I made it all the way to the end. And just, you know, I felt so incredible about that. So I kind of kept going through that, you know, thinking, okay, well, what if I scaled back and I worked on a better 5K time? Or what if I worked on, you know, I was having to take a lot of walk breaks. What if I just worked on being able to run 1 full mile without a walk break? You know, so giving myself a lot of little goals, and tried to work up to another half marathon about a year and a half or so later. That was about 3 hours away from where I live. And funny story about that one was that I was trained, and you know, the course was great, but I just felt miserable the whole time. I was so worn out. I was exhausted by the end of it, and it was taking me forever to recover. And I was like, something is not right here. Ended up going to the doctor and going, why can I not recover from this half marathon? I didn't even push myself that hard. And he said, well, the thing is, you ran a half marathon with a baby in your stomach. And that's how I found out I was pregnant again.
Oh my God. That's crazy. So how far along were you?
I was already about a month and a half, almost 2 months along at that point, and I had no clue. I just didn't think about it. So
that's awesome, though.
So that was a real surprise. So running kind of got pushed to the back burner after that.
Yeah.
Right before my daughter was born, ended up the business I was working in ended up closing, and you know, of course, when you're 7 months pregnant, kind of hard to find another job when you're about to go on maternity leave. So we worked it out so I could just be a stay-at-home mom. But got hit with that postpartum depression again, and it was really heavy this time. And that's when my whole family was like, you know, you ought to think about running again, because that really helped last time. And so I said, well, okay, and started working back up to a decent 5K, and I've just kind of been building ever since then.
So how do you balance everything? Because with 2 little kids, and you know, trying to run and having your YouTube channel at the same time, it's probably, how do you make it all happen?
One thing that really helps is that my parents live about a block away from me.
Okay.
And they love spending time with the grandkids, so they're willing to go. They know, you know, this is, and the kids understand this is the time of the day when mom is going to run, and so they'll play over there and let me have some time to work out. And usually, it's kind of funny because I'll go back and watch some of my videos and realize, you know, my Southern accent is really, really coming out in this video. It's because the more tired I am, the more Southern I sound. You can tell when it's like right after a run and I'm just tired and I'm like, but I've got to film this video. And then spend the rest of the day sitting there editing it while I'm helping the kids with other stuff.
So that's really funny, because when I am tired, I'm from Spain. So when I'm tired, I can't speak English. For like, my husband and I cannot have an argument because I cannot argue in English. Like I can't, like my brain does not make the connections. So it's, and my accent gets a lot thicker too. So he's like, I know what you're saying. I'm like, okay, just leave it at that. Like, it's very hard for me to have an argument when I'm tired, but it's only because of that. I cannot convey the information the same way.
Right.
So you were talking about all your races, and what has been your favorite race that you've run?
There's a few that stand out. The one where I didn't know I was pregnant, it's actually a really, really cool race in Russellville called the Russ Vegas Half Marathon. And it's very laid back, and it's like a big party. And when you run through the residential areas, everybody out there is having a party in their front lawn. Some of them are in costumes and stuff like that.
Wow.
So they're all out there with signs, and they're giving you drinks and candy and everything. So like the whole town gets involved in it. And then at the end, you run through campus, and all the sororities are out there cheering for you. And it's a really fun one. And I also I have fond memories of this past February when I did the Princess Half Marathon at Walt Disney World. Usually I do the Disney Marathon weekend in January. I couldn't get it worked out schedule-wise this year, but I decided to go in February instead. And it was super fun. And I had it in my head of I'd had a really good proof of time to send in, and so they put me in a pretty good corral. I was in Corral C, so I'm like, wow, that's the farthest up front I've ever been. And
that's a great corral, yeah.
So they were giving me like an estimated finish time of, I think, 2:25, and I decided, okay, I'm not stopping for characters, I'm not stopping for anything, I'm just gonna go. And I said, I'm gonna do, my run walk strategy all the way up to mile 10, and then I'm gonna see how I feel. I got to mile 10, and I'm like, I'm going for it. And I just, pushed myself as hard as I could, just running the last 5K, and ended up finishing in 2:18. So I was super happy.
That's a really good time, especially for Disney, because there's a lot going on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody was like, didn't you stop for the characters? I said, well, I waved as I went past, so.
Well, you have to have a strategy. Either you stop for the characters or you run it. I mean,
right.
There are people that do right or wrong, so.
Right. Well, there's people that do what they call, for the full marathon in January, they have what they call the Everest challenge. And that's where when you're running through Animal Kingdom, you stop and go in the single rider line for Expedition Everest. And so you ride that roller coaster, and then you come off and you rejoin the race before they try and sweep you off the course.
That's giving me the chills just thinking about it.
I'm like, I couldn't do it.
I haven't ridden that, even just, visiting the parks. My son did it with my husband. My son didn't know, he knew it was a roller coaster.
Mm-hmm.
My husband didn't know either, the surprise thing that happens. So I'm not gonna, just in case people don't know. Because, but when that happens, they take a picture of you.
Right.
The picture of my husband he was just, scared face. But my son looked like he had put his fingers in an outlet, like, I kid you not, his hair was like, and he was like, the face, oh my God, I had to get
I went on it once, and the picture it took of me, I was like curled in a fetal position around the safety bar.
So let's talk about goals. What do you have in mind for your running? Like, what would you like to accomplish?
Well, right now, my main goal for the rest of this year is to be able to finish a half marathon with no walk breaks. And I'm up to about 9.5 miles that I can get through before I'm like, okay, I've got to stop. Just kind of inching forward on that, because about every month I'll add another mile or half mile to it, because I'm like, okay, if I could go this long, I can go another 10 minutes. That's not a big deal. So it's mostly playing mind games with myself, but that's the goal for the end of this year. I was going to try and do the Walt Disney World Marathon in January to make it through a full for the first time, but they because of obvious reasons, they've had to cut way back on the amount of beds that they have available, and they open it up to annual pass holders and vacation club members ahead of time. And so they kind of snapped everything up, and along with the travel agents and everything, they kind of got all the beds ahead of time. So once they opened it up to the public, there were a few people that were able to get in, and then that was it.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, well, second goal would be, I guess, to run the Little Rock Marathon. It's a lot cheaper. I mean, it's only an hour away from where I live, and so it's a lot less of a gamble. And plus, they give you these gigantic medals when you finish. So that's the goal for right now. It's probably going to be a run walk strategy kind of a thing, but I would like to make it through a full.
So I wanted to hear a little bit about your routine before a race. Like, are you superstitious? Do you do something that you have to always do because you forget
Not
to do it? It's like, oh my
really.
God.
No, I mean, it's pretty much, starting the day before. I have to watch everything that I'm eating because over the past few years, I've definitely been able to figure out I cannot have this the day before I run because that's going to cause problems, or it's going to make me feel like this, or I'm not going to have any energy. I try to go for around a 30-ish minute run, usually in the shoes that I'm planning on wearing, just to make sure I don't have any last minute issues with them. And then just try to hang out and rest as much as possible. Then if it's super early when I have to start, because I know like for Disney races, you have to be there around 3-4 o'clock in the morning. That's why they say everything is magical except the starting time.
That's so funny.
And if it's really early, then I'll grab a protein bar and a cup of coffee, so I at least have something in my stomach. If I've got time, like if I've like today for doing a run, I'll usually fuel up with something like oatmeal with peanut butter, so I've got protein in there. And then I just kind of play it by ear. I try to get there in enough time to find my corral. There have been a couple of times where I'm like, I can't find a place to park, and I'm running up to my corral as they're doing the national anthem, and but I like to get there in enough time to get my brain,
Yeah, that's your call, especially if you're in the bathroom, like if you're in the port, if you're in the national anthem, it's like, okay.
Like, oh, gotta go.
They're starting without me. So what about your YouTube channel? What would you like to, what do you have in mind? Do you have any plans or any ideas or where you would like to take it?
I know eventually I'd like to get a little more into the nutrition side. I'm kind of sort of delving into that. I've got a video on hydration that's coming up, but it's kind of hard to do because I like to really research everything ahead of time and make sure that I'm getting all my facts straight, that it's not just my experiences and my opinions, it's things that I can back up. Make sure, and that's why I always have to specify, I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not a doctor, this is my experience and this is what I've researched. So I would like to get more into that. But pretty much I just kind of take it a couple of weeks at a time. Usually the idea will come to me while I'm out on a run, and I'll be like, I should do a video about such and such. Okay, and file that away in my brain and think about, okay, I need to start doing the research on that. And so I'll start researching, taking notes and everything. That's why in a lot of my videos, you'll see right before an edit, you'll see my head down like that because I'm checking to make sure I said what I needed to say.
So do you have a favorite pair of shoes? Anything that are you loyal to a brand, or are you one of those runners that just likes to experiment with new things?
Well, it's kind of weird. I've said before, I'm not really much of a shoe critic. I don't really know a whole lot of difference from one brand to another. I just know the few that I've tried and what I like and don't like. For the most part, I tend to stick with ASICs. Back after I did my first half marathon, I was like, if I'm going to keep doing this, I really need to get some really good shoes and go ahead and spend the money on that. And went to a store and they were like, I think you'll like these. The guy was like, I run a lot of marathons and these work for me, and you'll like the toe box on these. And so that's kind of what I stuck with, was usually like a gel Nimbus is what I stuck with. And actually that pair of shoes, I showed them in a video not too long ago, but I ran in those things for about 3 years. I mean, I absolutely wore those things out because it's like, if I'm going to spend that much money on a pair of shoes, I'm going to wear those things out. But ended up going with another pair of ASICs, and then had another person told me, you know, if you like Asics, you might like Brooks. And so I've tried out some Brooks, which I found are better for me anyway, for doing more speed work, doing shorter runs. I save the Asics for the longer runs. I've tried New Balance. They tend to be a little bit narrow on me, so I don't tend to use those a whole lot. But you know, Asics is pretty much kind of the brand that I've been sticking with for the past few years.
And they are good shoes. When I started running, my first pair of shoes was an Asics. I think I bought the Cumulus.
Mm-hmm.
Which are similar to the Nimbus.
Right.
Because I tried the Nimbus too, but the Cumulus felt, you know, when you try them on and they feel right on your
yes,
comfortable, it's like, okay, I'm taking them. Yeah, so I hear you. They're really good shoes, Asics. And in terms of advice for new runners,
okay.
If anybody asked you today, like, I want to start running, I'm curious, what would you tell them?
Well, first of all, I would say don't neglect your strength training.
Oh, good one.
Definitely something that I did for a long time. I just need to run more. I don't need to do other stuff. Yeah, it took a few years to figure that out. That's way too long to not realize that I needed strength training. So, I mean, because if you want to prevent injury, if you just want to make yourself a more well-rounded runner, it's not just the more miles you put on, it's just the more overall fit that you are. And so that's a huge part of it. Also, just the fact that, you know, if there's a lot of people that wonder, am I really a runner? Because you start wondering, at what point do I become a runner? And I just want to tell people, if you believe you're a runner, you're a runner.
Right.
There's a lot of people that will tell you, well, you have to take walk breaks, so that's not really running. Or, you know, if you can't finish a 5K in under 30 minutes, then, you know, you're not really running. Or if you haven't at least tried to do a marathon, you're not running. And I remember back after I finished my first half marathon, like I said, really slow time. And I actually had a couple of people that were like, that's not really a time that you would be proud of. And I'm like, yeah, but I finished. That's the point, is that I finished. And it's just, you know, just don't let people dull your shine. You just gotta believe that you are a runner. And most importantly, take things at your own pace, because you know, that's one of the benefits that I found of, I tend to be a solo runner. Again, there's just not a whole lot of people to run in a group with here. And which is funny, because we have like a couple of elite level type like marathoners that live here in town, and they tend to practice on their own as well. So everybody's just kind of a solo runner around here, and which helps because I don't feel pressured to meet a certain standard. I've been able to find where my edge is and then start pushing past that. And that's what's made a whole lot of difference in my running, is, you know, learning where that edge is and then how to go past that, and mentally being able to go past that. So, you know, being able to go at your own pace, that's a huge part of it as well.
Those are recommendations. I like them. So thank you so much for accepting my invite to do this interview and be my guest here on my channel. I was so excited to talk to you and interview you.
Thank you so much for asking me, because I've been watching your channel for a while, and it's just, everything is just so friendly and conversational, and it's so fun to watch.
I was so excited to have you. So thank you so much for this. Where can people find you on social media?
Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. You can find me under the name Running Geek Girl, and then just search Running Geek Girl in YouTube and you'll find me there.
So I'm going to put all the handles below so people you know where to find you. And guys, subscribe to her channel, to mine too, if you're watching this and you're not subscribed. And yeah, I'm sure I'll see you around. I see you on Instagram all the time. So
all right,
hope we get around together at some point. Hopefully,
oh, I know, right?
Hopefully Disney, when things open up and they have more space and more.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. Great. Thank you so much, Heather.
Thank you.
Have a good rest of the day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.